Saturday, September 14, 2013. This is Mercedes Diesel Guy, and this is my 1979 Mercedes 240 diesel parts car. Continuing on with dismantling the car. The next thing I want to do is I want to take out the manual shifter. Now the engine and transmission are already out of this car, and as such the shift linkage is disconnected from the transmission, so can't really show you that part, which would be difficult anyway under the car, but once I have the linkage out, I'll show you how it does connect to the transmission. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is lift up the shifter boot right there around the console, and in order to do that I have a plastic prying tool. So from that point you pull the shifter boot up, and just in case, in order to get myself a little more clearance, I'm going to take out the ashtray, which just pulls out like so. Press down on the tab here, and that's easy. Then you want to get the center console plate off, and you just pull that backwards and lift up. And the reason you pull it backwards is there's actually this lug right here which goes straight into the console, so you have to push it straight back. Then I'm going to disconnect the hazard switch and pull the console plate out. Now that I have that vacuumed out, I think it's going to be helpful to take the center console out, which I want to do anyway. So obviously I already have the ashtray out, so I pulled out the carpet insert here, and there's nothing holding it in. Then I'm going to want to remove this screw right here, and these two screws here holding the bracket in. Once the bracket's out, you're going to want to pull out the radio, which is going to be different unless you have a factory radio. So I'm going to do this, and I'll show you what's next. Next, you're going to want to remove the climate control panel faceplates, and you start by pulling off the knobs here. Those just pull straight off, and this one does too apparently. And then you have to remove those three large nuts in there. I very lightly broke those free with a 24mm socket, and as you can see they're really brittle. The one on the right here was already cracked. The one on the left cracked with the slightest pressure. I mean, I had nothing on these and they just cracked basically when I breathed on them. And I'm going to have to reuse these, so I'm going to have to be very careful getting them out and saving the pieces and trying to fasten them back together as best I can. So now I can unthread these nuts by hand. And now at this point, you just pull this knob off right here. And then once you pull out the three inserts, one of which only survived intact for me, you pull the panel off and then disconnect these light bulbs. The next thing to do is to pry up this plastic piece right here if you've got one of these center knobs, and then remove the nut behind it, which is just like the nuts that were behind here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Next, you get in here and pop out these two switches. I'm going to do it with a plastic prying tool, but if you're careful you can do it with a screwdriver. Disconnect them and push them out of the way. And once those switches are out of the way, you can get in here with a plastic prying tool and pop off the cover plate. And once that's all out of the way, you can lift the console up here at the back and lift it out, making sure to work it around the shifter there. And once the console's out of the way, the next thing you're going to want to do is disconnect the backup light switch, which is right here. So I'm going to go disconnect that. And I'm also going to release this wire tie right here to move these cables out of the way. Next, I'm going to remove these four 10mm bolts holding the shifter to the transmission tunnel. Once those bolts are out, you lift this bracket off the passenger side here, and then pull the shifter up. And I'm actually able to extract everything straight out of the hole there. And you can see right here how the shift rods are attached to the shifter and the transmission with these clips right here that you simply pry, and once you pry these clips and slide them off, you can replace the bushings, and there are 6 of them 3 on this side and 3 on the other side. So that's how you remove the manual shifter from a Mercedes 240D. And obviously, like I said, I had already released those 3 clips on the bottom there from the transmission, and I put the clips themselves back onto the linkage so I wouldn't lose them. This is Mercedes Diesel Guy. Thanks for watching.